Hi, welcome to my latest video. A few weeks ago I changed my glow plugs, and in order to get to the glow plugs I had to remove the manifold, the inlet manifold, and to get the inlet manifold off I had to remove the fuel filter. So I took the opportunity to replace the fuel filter with a new one. I also replaced the inlet manifold with a later inlet manifold that doesn't have the swirl flaps on it. In this video I'm going to look at the old fuel filter. Here it is. Okay, so this is a MAN fuel filter, which is not a genuine Land Rover one, but it's a well-known brand, and this served me well for over 100,000 miles. It's meant to be changed every 30,000 miles. Okay, so this was well overdue. Alright, so this is now off the car, the new one is on. I fitted a Sogefi Pure Flux, which is a sort of genuine, that's the genuine one that Land Rover fit in the factory. Okay, so if you buy a Land Rover branded fuel filter, then you'll get the Sogefi Pure Flux. Okay, here's a picture of what it looks like, and I'll put the part number at the bottom of the screen now. This old fuel filter here, I thought it would be interesting to get a saw and cut it open. Now, I don't know if I need to use an electric saw, or a manual saw, or a hacksaw, or a bandsaw, or what, but I'll attack it with this. This is just a kind of like a wood saw. I mean, it's only plastic, so I'm kind of hoping I can just stick it in the workmate like that and just cut into it and see what's inside. I thought it'd be interesting to look at the filter element in there, see how much debris has been caught in it, how much rust or dust or dirt or metal particles or whatever else floats around in the fuel system should have been caught in that. And this was on the car for about 7 years, I think, maybe even longer. Okay, so should be plenty caught in that filter element. Be interesting to see what state it's in. We can also have a look at the thermostatic valve. Okay, so in here somewhere, either in there or further down, there is a thermostatic valve which, when the fuel is cold, it's sort of recirculated. Let's see, so then the feed comes in there and the return comes across there to the tank. Okay, now this here in normal operation doesn't go into the filter, it just literally flows straight through. But you'll notice there is a slight offset in height of these two pipes here, so something's going on in there. And I know that there is a thermostatic valve which sends some or all of the fuel kind of back round to start with when it's cold, so that it stays closer to the engine, and obviously with the high pressure and everything it heats up. Okay, so the spare fuel from the injectors that's not injected in will pass through here. Once everything's warmed up, it goes back to the tank. When things are cold, it gets sent back round with some fresh fuel added in, of course, because the engine is actually burning fuel, so it's sort of added into the main feed there, which helps warm the fuel up and helps the car to sort of get going better and run a bit more efficiently and everything else. Okay, once the fuel is heated up, I think the magic temperature is 45 degrees, so when it reaches that temperature it starts to flow back to the tank. It may be lower than that. I heard of lots of different temperatures mentioned in the comments when people were commenting on the video where I replaced the fuel filter. So there is a temperature where it stops recirculating and it starts going back to the tank. It would be fairly easy to measure that, actually, because all you do is you measure the temperature of the returning fuel and see how warm it is, really, because fuel should only come out of here above a certain temperature. Okay, so I'm not going to do that in this video, but just be aware that there is a thermostatic valve in there, and it has been known to go wrong occasionally. Not on my car, but I've heard of other people where they've actually fitted a brand new filter, but they fitted a cheap aftermarket one, and the valve here has not sort of opened up, and it's just kept recirculating and recirculating. And what happens is the car gets down the road, sort of a few miles down the road, and then it cuts out because it's not because the fuel boils. I did say incorrectly in one of my videos that it recirculates until it boils. I've since learned that diesel boils at about 800 plus degrees C. Okay, so it's not boiling, but what's happening is the fuel temperature sensor here, which goes on there. Let's just show you that. It's this thing here. Okay, so that there will tell the ECU that the fuel is getting really hot, and eventually at a certain temperature, which may or may not be 80 degrees C, various temperatures were suggested in my comments, the ECU shuts the engine down. Okay, and it does that to protect the high pressure pump, okay, because if the fuel is too hot, the density, the viscosity of the fuel will drop, the high pressure pump could get damaged. Okay, so yes, the engine basically cuts out a few miles down the road because this valve's not opening. I have heard of that happening. I've heard of a couple of people with that problem. So if your car is driving fine for 5 miles and then cutting out, could be a fuel filter thermostatic valve. Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the camera on the tripod. Pit Lane Kitty's out here. She's going to help me do this, and I'm going to cut this open somehow and see what's inside. So there is a sort of a join here, but it's kind of like a glued kind of join. So I'm just going to cut below here. So if I hold it that way, and then this bit will sort of protect my hand. Let's have a little look. Now, I'll mention, of course, I've drained all the diesel out of this, okay, so just be a little bit careful if you're doing the same. Make sure your filter is drained of all the diesel. It takes a bit of draining to get all the diesel out. You have to kind of turn it upside down and on its side, and there's still sort of dregs lurking around in there. Still some diesel coming out. There we go. Right. Let's have a little look. Now it's sort of stuck on something. I've cut all the way through. What's something stuck? There it is. It was there's a thing under that. I don't know what that is. I'll tell you what it is. That has got a rod that goes all the way down to that. I think that is the drain for letting water out. Yeah, as you turn that, you can see that little thing turning. What does that do? Does that unscrew? No, it doesn't seem to unscrew. Turning it doesn't seem to be doing anything. It just pulls out. It's just like a... Right. Got a little rubber sort of cone on the end there. And that's got a hole down through it. Okay, so that seals into that, and I'm guessing as you turn that probably rises. Yes, it's coming out. Okay, so that, I think, is the water drain. If you ever end up with water in your fuel filter somehow, then you turn this and it lifts that little valve thing. Okay, so it lifts that out of the bottom of the filter, and I wish I'd known about that, because that would have really helped with draining it. I was kind of tipping it on its side to drain stuff out of here. Okay, so that, yeah, these flangey bits there, these clips, stop it from coming right out. But I'm sure if I was to prise those off, that would come out. Anyway, that's the water drain. What I'm interested in is the actual filter element, which is removable, amazingly. It's a shame you can't actually change just that bit and put a new one in. So that pulls out, and it's yeah, in a pretty bad state actually. There's a lot of stuff here. That's not metal. That's probably just plastic dust where I've sawed through it. Okay, all right, phew. I thought that had all come from a fuel tank. Okay, all right. It looks like that. That's just the dust from where I sawed the plastic. The filter element is very black, though. It's a sort of like a kind of paper element, a very, very thick, rigid paper element. Blimey, yeah. It's in a much worse state than I thought, but there's no big sort of chunks of metal or anything like that. There's nothing too scary here. These bits on the element are just bits of plastic from where I've sawed it. Not seeing anything scary like rust or mud or anything like that in there, which is good. It means the contents of the fuel tank are nice and clean. Now this one here, so we've got the water outlet. That's a kind of a ghost connector. I'm just going to tip this. It's going to drip a little bit of diesel, but that's a connector which I think is to detect water and maybe sort of sound an alarm or something, or not sound an alarm, but send a message to the ECU or something to say we've got water in our fuel. But this filter doesn't have that capability. There's nothing inside. This is also blank. I think that's just a mounting point. That's a mounting point, but there's nothing inside. It's not a valve or anything like that. The only valve is this thing. Okay, so that might be used on some cars, but not on the Freelander 2. Okay, so that's the water thing. In a moment we'll have a look at that. What I'd like to do is try and, will that sit like that? Let's see if we can cut through this and just see. Yeah, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's just snagging up. Okay. But that is effectively a paper filter. It's not foam. It's a sort of fibrous, cardboardy substance. Right. Okay. Right, that's that. At least we know what it looks like inside. And then here we've got, so let's see which way around this goes. So fuel comes in down there, here, through the filter from the outside in, up that pipe, which goes up here. That's strange. That's like a dead end. I wonder if... No, it must come up through the inside. Surely. Yeah, there's a tiny hole there. very, very small hole up in there. Very small, actually. Little tiny hole on the edge, which corresponds to this pipe coming out. It's a lot smaller than I thought. Okay, so that's how the fuel gets in and out. What about this return here? So there's something in there. There's like a sort of metal valve thing. Okay, so that will be the thermostatic valve. And let's just see if... It looks like it unclipped, you see. There's kind of clip things here, but that is all moulded to that. That's not removable. That doesn't come off. So it must be where they put the spring or whatever's in there, and then they kind of clip that shut. What I'm going to do is just see if I can prise that middle bit out. There we go. Right, so what have we got? So let's just move this out of the way. So let's just carefully pull this apart. Right, that's just a plastic kind of end bit. And then we've got a spring, a kind of conical spring. And then there's a little sort of needle valve thing. Okay, which I think that's like a thermostatic, like a wax stat thing. Okay, like a car thermostat. So there's inside there's wax or something which swells up when it gets hot, presses that. Okay, so that sort of lifts, presses against the spring, and then it blocks off basically. Oh, hang on a minute, that needle thing's come out. Okay, right, hold on, it's all coming apart. Right, so that now is it this bit that really closes off to that? Yeah, I guess when that shrinks, it allows fuel to come through here into the main chamber. Well, what I could do is put this in some hot water and see at what point it sort of presses that up, I suppose. Let's just see if there's anything else inside there. No, there's nothing in there, that's just plastic. Okay, nothing in there. So the fuel goes across, and then when this shrinks, I wonder if there's... Yeah, I mean the fuel shouldn't be under great pressure. I don't think that's meant to come out of there. I don't know. It's very loose though, that's the thing. So, yeah, that sort of pushes... Oops. Right, okay, so there's a sort of like another spring inside there. Or maybe it's the substance that swells up, I don't know, but that's a bit springy. So that... how did this go? Like that. Just put it all back together. Yeah, you can see that there makes a valve. Yeah. So I suppose the spring, the spring, of course, is pushing it against there. So this rod extends out as it gets hot, and that closes up that valve by pushing this piece into there. Okay, but it needs the spring, of course, to stop it getting stuck. So, I wonder what temperature that comes out of there. I mean, it's about 5 degrees out here at the moment. I've just been handling this, warming it up, you see. So, yeah, what I might do, if I try and put this back together, I'd really like to get to the bottom of what temperature this thing closes up at, because there's so many different answers in the comments. Nobody really seems to know. Now, I'm not really going to be able to put this fully back together because that piece is now missing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that cool off from where I've been touching it, and then I'll get some water and try and warm that up, okay? And just see, we should see that little gap down in there close up. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show it closing up as it heats up, which is more realistic with what actually happens inside the filter. You start the engine, the valve is open because it's cold, the fuel is circulating through the filter, recirculating within the filter, and then the valve closes up, forcing the return fuel to go all the way back to the tank. Okay, so what I've done here, it looks a bit precarious, health and safety, okay, but I'm not going to be heating this up to boiling. I'm going to be warming this to about 30 degrees, no more than that, okay. So I've got it on a little propane burner here. Got some cold water in this pan. It is pretty solid, okay, so this is solid. I will do my best not to knock this over myself. Okay, so let's get the meat thermometer going. Right, so that says 15. It's not 15 out here, it's a lot colder than that at the moment. It's about 5 degrees. It's probably just because it's been in the house and it's still cooling down, but let's put that in there. Oh dear, this is going to knock this around. It's a non-stick pan, unfortunately, so it's sliding around. I don't want to get that wet. Mrs. Pitts won't be very happy if I drop this in the water. Okay, I think what I'm going to have to do is just prop... Oh, dear. Right, how am I going to do this? Oh no! Oh, dearie me. Oh dear. Right, I've got to find a way to... I wonder if I could stick it through... Is that going to work? What about in the middle there? Oh, dearie me. Come on. Okay, so that water is 9.0 degrees C. And what I'm going to do now is light the burner, and we'll keep a close eye on that little thermostatic valve. I believe that will close up between 20 and 30 degrees C, okay. So here's a graph of some engine data put up on the Freelander 2 off-road group by a guy called Michael. He's plotted external temperature, internal temperature, fuel temperature and the oil and water temperature on a graph against time after starting the car. And of course the oil and water warm up as you'd expect. The fuel warms up and then suddenly drops when it reaches about 26 degrees. And we believe that is the point at which the thermostatic valve opens and the fuel then starts to go back to the tank and is then colder because there's no recirculation within the filter. Okay, so I'm expecting this to open around 25 degrees. So I'm going to light the burner now. Right, let's get that zoomed in. Now the temperature probe is is of course touching the bottom of the pan. So that's no good. I need to move that because it's reading 26 degrees already. Okay, so what I've done is I've put the probe sort of on top of the plastic, so it's not touching the metal base of the pan because that was causing it to misread. That's up to 19 degrees already. So we should start to see the little valve start to close up. $50 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to stop this now. It's at 50 degrees. I wasn't actually going to take it that high, but there we go. I don't know if you can read that. It says 49.9, 50.02. Okay, and that valve is completely closed now. Right, now what I need to do is tip this out. So there we go, science experiment over. The thermostatic valve on this MAN fuel filter starts to close at about 20 degrees and is fully closed by about 40. Other brands of filter may close up at different temperatures, and they may also open and close quicker than mine. Okay, so normally it's somewhere sort of in the region of 25 to 30 degrees that the valve starts to operate. How quickly it moves probably varies between different brands of filter. Okay, right, it's getting dark and cold out here now, so I'm going to go inside and warm up and edit this video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that was useful to show you what goes on inside the fuel filter. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.